Oh, you know what this means? And now we are ready for fabric. And I didn't just put any old fabric on, I put Oratex on. A revolutionary new product that promises no paint, no mess, no dope, and no toxic fumes. But did it work? I ran into some major issues that could have put my time frame into a tailspin. Would I put Oratex fabric on an airplane again? Now let's get to covering this bird.
I'm Jeremy Grobeck, mortgage master and airplane builder, but this is what I love. Let's get you home.
First off, why did I go this route? Traditional poly fiber takes a lot of time, adds a lot of weight, paint weighs a lot, there's a lot of toxic fumes. I didn't have a paint booth. I'm not a professional aircraft or auto painter. And I didn't want to go through all the trouble and time that all of that would take. So I was looking for an alternative, and I found Oratex, and I figured, let's give it a try.
It's fabric time. Oh yeah. So I got the bottom of the wing fabric on. Now you can see I've pre-wired as much as I can here. I've got everything ready to go, so to speak. The fabric is on the bottom and it has not been shrunk. That's why it's wrinkly. Now I'm putting Oratex on here. So this is the roll. I strung it from the ceiling on a piece of PVC I had laying around.
Now Oratex has been around for a number of years, so it's not a new product, but it's by far not nearly as popular as some of the traditional polyfiber systems.
Process on the fabric, let's talk about the steps it took to get here. Again, this isn't the normal fabric that comes with the kit. Basically, it's Oratex. It's from Germany. It's cool, it's light, you don't have to paint it, is a big benefit. This is the glue here, and so it's just a white liquid. And you take it with one of these foam brushes, and you apply it, and you do 2 coats on the fabric, 2 coats on whatever the fabric's going to be touching. So you can see the lines that I drew there, and then I put glue down, attached it, and put glue on the rib as well, 2 coats on each, so 4 coats total. And then you put it on, you take this iron, and this guy here is the iron, and you iron that on. It's like a ski iron or something. So that, and then you also use this heat gun here. This is a very quality heat gun that you can really get sensitive on the temp with. Normally that tip isn't on, I'm doing some electrical stuff. So here's kind of an idea of, I just kind of jotted down the numbers, so to speak, the temp. So unfortunately the iron is in Celsius and the heat gun is in Fahrenheit. So you got 158 degrees Fahrenheit / 7 degrees Celsius, but that's the temperature it activates at. It starts to turn to a liquid, and then you kind of set it at 212 degrees Fahrenheit. And so you go through and then you wait 24 hours. And then you go back through and shrink it at 450 degrees and then do a final ironing on it. What I have going on right here is this is the fabric that I'm getting ready to attach to the top side of this wing. And you can see like the shiny glue. And the way this Oratex fabric works is you mark where the ribs are and you put 2 coats of glue. I'm gonna pull this piece of fabric back over, put it on this wing, and then I'll tack it down and then end up shrinking it up and stuff. Like this side isn't shrinked up yet. So this piece of tape is so my glue line's nice and straight. So that'll end up coming off.
You put the glue on, and then once you get all the fabric tacked down and permanently bonded, then you go back through and you shrink it and tighten it all up. And so it ends up sounding like a drum when you tap on it. It's so tight. And then you go through and put the finish tapes on. The finish tapes I found were by far the most challenging part, mainly because that's the most cosmetic part and that's the part you see. So more than anything, you see those edges, those seams. And one of the super frustrating things I had with this fabric is these little wrinkles that when you tried to go around some of the curves with, especially with the finish tape, you would get these little wrinkles in and most of them would work their way out. But if you look at my plane closely, there's definitely some wrinkles in there that, although I have no doubt it's structurally sound, those are some areas that if you were doing a more traditional system, you'd be able to clean some of that up. So because you're not painting it, it's really truly the those finish tapes are it. That's the only thing covering those seams. So I would say one of the downsides to the Oratex, and it is not the major downside, I'm getting to that, but one of the downside to Oratex is that there's not a lot of cosmetic room for air. And if you're looking for a show airplane, the shiniest airplane on the block with zero imperfections, Oratex is probably not your way to go. That's not what I was looking for. I'm looking for an airplane that I can go up and fly and have fun in, and Oratex was the perfect product for that. It's much more of a matte or a satin finish, and I think it looks pretty sweet, but you can be the judge for yourself. Step that I took that I did not need to take with my particular build was rib stitching. And so once I got all the fabric on, I went back through and I rib stitched the plane, and I just did the wings. I didn't do the horizontal stabilizer or the vertical stabilizer or any of that. I just did the wings. I did it, I guess, more for peace of mind, and I guess partly because I like that rib stitched look. I think I like that bringing that vintage look into this modern cockpit kind of airplane. And why not rib stitch them for that added protection? But there's some STCs out, and you can read about them with the fabric, where if you've got a big enough rib cap to attach to with the glue, you do not need to rib stitch it. And I really don't think I needed to do that step. However, I did. So rib stitching was interesting. I'd never done it before. I felt like I was taking a step back in history when I was stitching these ribs.
I'm working on the rib stitching, and where to begin? So there's a lot more to this than I thought there was going to be. Of course, I could say that about most everything I worked on this airplane, but the rib stitching here it just takes a long time. This is what it looks like when it's done. And what it took to get to this point is putting some tape down, marking holes, punching holes, and then stitching the ribs, and then putting some finishing tapes on and some glue. Let's see, I am not done yet. You can see how long I've been working on this. Rib stitch, 12 hours. Rib stitch, rib stitch, rib stitch. Okay, this is all rib stitching here. 22 hours I've been working on the fabric. Just the rib stitching. Just the rib stitching. Just the rib stitching, 22 hours. Oh my gosh. And I'm not done. This wing is done. This wing is done. And the top of this wing's done. But the bottom is not done yet. So I'm going to flip this bad boy over and put the tapes on. And when I'm done, it'll look like this.
Although it's not the last time.
One of the other challenges that I had during the build was the tail section where you've got this curve that comes from where the fuselage transitions into the vertical stabilizer, and that curve is a bear, just the way the fabric is. What I ended up doing was I left the top of the Kitfox open, which worked out really, really good the way I could do this because I didn't have to paint. So I left the top piece of fabric off. I did the bottom and the sides, and then I left the top off, and I was able to, I did a lot of pre-wiring as much as I could. I could have done more. I wish I would have done a little bit more, but I was able to access everything through that top section and button up all my wiring. And then later I closed it up with that last piece of fabric. So to me, that was a huge advantage to the Oratex that I could do that, because if I would have been doing traditional painting, I would have had to paint that entire thing. And not have been able to go back and put another piece of fabric on. So that was a cool bonus to the Oratex. let's be clear, the Oratex advantages are huge. You've got weight savings because paint weighs so much. You're saving time because you're not having to paint, and you're getting rid of the toxic fumes. So three major advantages to Oratex. The big disadvantage was the Germans. And what I mean by that is this Oratex is manufactured in Germany, and it's distributed by a company out of Alaska, Better Aircraft Fabrics. And in order to get the fabric in the States, you've got to order through Better Aircraft Fabrics. Now, Better Aircraft Fabrics was great. They'd respond to my emails in a timely manner. They'd answer my questions. I talked to Lars on multiple occasions, and he was very forthcoming with tips and help and advice and answering any questions that I had. The problem was that whenever you needed to purchase something, they really didn't stock it in the States. It was coming out of Germany. The Alaska team would reach out to the Germans to try to get a price or to try to put an order in. And it would take weeks and weeks for these guys to respond. Like, I don't think they work in Germany. It was absolutely ridiculous. It was the most frustrating process. At one point, I just needed to get a like 4-foot piece of finish tape, and I couldn't even get a cost on that. It was just asinine. It took over a month to get a cost on that. On my initial order, now mind you, I was spending over $10,000 on this fabric, and on my initial order, I was trying to just get the order placed and freaking pay for it. And because the Germans wouldn't respond to the people in Alaska, they couldn't give me a cost, and I couldn't put the order in. So I dealt with a lot of vendors during this process. The Oratex people, because of Germany, were the worst ones to deal with in the entire build process. So if you're going to do this fabric, plan your timeline out way in advance. Something else that's noteworthy, because we're talking about timing here, is the glue has a short shelf life, which I would say is another disadvantage to the product. The glue does not last very long, a couple of months. And so you're trying to wait to order the fabric because of the glue, because you don't want to get the glue too soon and not be able to use it. But at the same time, you need to order the fabric way in advance because the customer service out of Germany sucks. So what is the solution? What I would do if I was going back and doing it again, the day my kit arrived, I would order all the fabric except for the glue. And then when I got close to being ready to put the fabric on, I would order the glue, because they do stock a lot of the glue in Alaska, so you won't have that German delay. All right, so after all the cutting and gluing and shrinking and dealing with the finish takes, the moment of truth. Would I buy Oratex again? The answer is yes, I absolutely would. I think it looks great on the plane overall. The savings in time, the savings in weight, like all those benefits to me outweigh the crappy customer service out of Germany. As far as the product itself, I like it. It's strong. It looks good. It saved me some weight. Overall, hands down, I would definitely purchase Oratex again. So now that the covering is done, we are going to move on to the avionics and all of the wiring. Next time, you're going to see me put a bazillion feet of wiring in. No, that would be boring, but we're going to speed up the process. But you're going to see me wire this airplane, and you're going to see one of the most advanced panels out there in a Kitfox. So make sure you subscribe to my channel to catch that upcoming video. Thanks for watching my Oratex deep dive. Remember, I am a mortgage master, not an airplane builder, so take my advice for what it's worth. Free.